Beata and I had a beautiful family. But then Maya started to get sick.
So you could see this thriving young girl deteriorating. And that wasn't something that I felt was imaginary. And I do just want to say that oftentimes with girls and women, when they go to the doctors, it's not unusual for them to be told that they're making it up and that it's in their mind. And I say that because I know hundreds of women who that has happened to, including my sister, who was given beta blockers after she was told that she was making it up. For some period of time, the doctors just didn't believe that her head was getting stuck in a certain direction. Her neck was twisting and it was locking and she couldn't move it. And they said she was imagining it. And I can't tell you how many people who I've heard from, girls and women, where that happens. They go to the doctors and they're just not believed. And that's what happened originally with Maya, that she's seen to be making this up, that it's not real.
But I also, Laura, I think it's also sometimes moms aren't believed either, you know, like,
Well,
oh,
that's why I'm saying women.
yeah.
Women
But
aren't believed.
I mean, not just the little girls not being, but like, you know, when I took my son, you know, I knew there was something wrong. I knew that this thriving baby was in pain. And I can, please, I love doctors and nurses, and so many of them are so caring, but it must be very hard for them to be able to diagnose something that is so kind of generalized. With my son, he was just in all kinds of pain. He wouldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, but there was nothing tangible, there was nothing testable. But I kept saying, look, there is something wrong. And they kept sending me away. And fortunately for me, he's a twin, so I have a control, right? I'm like, look at this baby. He's running around and crawling and talking, and this baby is not. And so finally, somebody at Lucy Packard Hospital, I want to get into the name branding of the hospital in Maya's case. Somebody at Lucy Packard said, well, let's try this. And it turned out he indeed had a rare disease, but it took me as a mom advocating this is, you know, over and over and over again for somebody to say, well, let's try this, you know.
Well done for doing that, Lisa. And you know, mums do have to be advocates for their children, but we shouldn't have to try so hard. We know our babies, we know what they're like when they're thriving, and we know instinctively when something's not right as well. We might not be able to articulate it, give it a medical name, but we know, and we know baseline behavior because we're watching, certainly when we have our first babies, we're watching them like hawks. You know, whilst they're sleeping, we check their breathing a million times, right? A day and a night and a nap. I mean, I still go in to check Rafi, to check his breathing every night before I go to bed. That's the last thing that I do. And I have eyes on him on the monitor. So it's really important that medical staff do listen. You know, when somebody talks to them about a chronic pain or something changing or something not being right. And that theme of not being believed and not being taken seriously, I do wonder how many times might someone have been diagnosed far earlier or help being given far earlier if somebody had been, you know, listening attentively to understand the symptoms of what's happening.
Right. And a lot of it is that they become sort of medical warehouses and you know, assembly lines, and you know, they just expect to spend 15 seconds, you know, looking at somebody, taking a test, looking at some numbers, and then diagnosing them and move on to the next patient and the next patient and the next patient. This is how hospitals make money. You know, when I was a kid, I thought hospitals were public services. I didn't realize that most hospitals are businesses, and they're just getting worse and worse and worse with all the regulations and all the time they have to spend away from the patient, and the little time they spend with patients. And when you get a doctor who does have the patience to spend time with his patients, that is a rare thing in the United States anyway. I don't know how it is in the UK, but this was really amazing how the mother was literally advocating for her child, period. She said, no, I know what this is. No, it isn't that, it's this. No, you need to do this, because she's been there. And her the way she was received by these people, not necessarily how she came off, but how they received her, not being the compliant mom, not being the, you know, typical whatever mom. They decided that they were going to, boom, switch into another mode, which is totally antagonistic and confrontational. And in the end, all it did was destroy that family.